no business winning this series. But they came out tonight, showed a lot of resilience, a lot of mental toughness. They went into Boston, and they played almost as well as you could play, but Boston came out, and they did it too. Sixers lose in Game 5, a great fucking basketball game tonight, 114-112. This performance would have won Game 1 or Game 2, but this is Game 5. It just goes to show how difficult it truly is to win in Boston. The season is now over. Kyle Gaffner is here. I am Adrian Fedke. Mistakes, turnovers, missed foul shots, getting out coached again. Just all came to bite the Sixers in the ass.
Killer fucking loss. That's yeah, man. I'm fucking so pissed off. I'm so angry that we lost, but down 3-1, you give it all you got. You know, you're up a little bit. JJ misses that fucking wide open 3. They come down, give them 2 easy buckets, and yeah, that's all she wrote.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fight that I saw tonight. I like the grit, the tenaciousness. I mean, for them to fight back the way that they did, they were down by 9 at halftime. They got within 1 heading into the fourth quarter, and I mean, what are you going to do? This is Boston. This just shows how hard it is to win in Boston. They shot 48%. They just missed foul shots and they turned the ball over, and that decided the outcome.
Yeah, they were sloppy at some points during this game, dude. And I thought Embiid should have went up with that dunk instead of freaking going off that backboard. I don't know. Like, I've been preaching this all season, dude. You got to go up strong and dunk the ball. You can't just try to, put a putback up. It's ridiculous. Just dunk the ball. And we saw it throughout this game, too. They were going up strong. They were taking it to the 10. I loved it. I love the tenacity we saw out of this team. But then, like, it was just minor little miscues, which you can't have in these games. It's just like you got to almost play perfect in the playoffs. Yeah. And they didn't do it, and it led to them getting, swally-whopped. Not tonight, but just 4-1 in this series.
Yeah, I mean, they turned the ball over 17 times, and, they went 24-31 from the foul line, which doesn't look too bad, but a lot of those misses came in the third quarter when they're attempting to get back in the game, claw back in it. But I mean, Ben Simmons came out. He was the guy that I've been waiting to see. Aggressive. He didn't hesitate when he pulled up for that first jump shot. Aggressive, taking it to the tin. So we saw all series. I mean, like, everybody was praising Brad Stevens about clogging the paint and sagging off of him. But this is what every NBA team has done with Simmons this season. It's just Simmons had a lack of aggression for those first 4 games, and we saw him come out tonight. We saw it. Just wasn't enough, man. Just wasn't enough. Boston came out, they played. You got to give them a lot of credit, man. That and Brett Brown, I've been calling for Justin Anderson all series, and we finally somewhat got it in the third quarter. For Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to just wipe away Marco Bellinelli and JJ Redick all series on those switches, and for you not to counter with Justin Anderson all series until Game 5, I mean, it was just too little too late for Brett Brown. He was waiting 2 to 3 games too long to make his adjustments. And again, it's like he just got out-coached. He got out-coached. Simple as that.
It's like he waved the white flags way too early. He should have been in there, and we saw him with 10 seconds into the second quarter, and then we saw him a little bit in the third, and then he took him out, put Rocco in. I thought Rocco didn't play well at all again. Yeah. I mean, he made that 1-3, which was an awful decision. He had a couple of those threes where he just ran up early in the shot clock and jacked them up, but they exploited our weaknesses on defense, which was JJ Redick and Marco Bellinelli. JJ Redick got eaten alive tonight. I didn't think he had any business being out there tonight. Like, I would have taken JJ Redick out. I thought he was very ineffective tonight. I would have rather have seen Justin Anderson. That 3 that he made at the end was just whatever. The game was over at that point, so it didn't really even matter. In my opinion, it's just like he was too small. He just wasn't strong enough, and they were wiping him out during the first half. Like, Brown was all over him. They were taking him out. So why not counter and put Justin Anderson, who was being physical? Look what he had done. The little time that he was in, he was effective. And it was just like Brett Brown again just got right. You're right. Just got outcoached. And it was like, I wish we would have saw this in the first couple of games from the Sixers, because this series would have been a lot more different if they didn't have to, be back on their heels and play like this, like they were getting played on elimination. You got to play like that every single game, dude.
Yeah. It goes back to game 1, game 2. I mean, you bit yourself in the ass game 3, game 2 and game 3, actually. So you bit yourself in the ass. If you could have just split one of those, if you didn't choke in game 2 and lose that 22-point lead, and then the turnovers at the end of game 3, I mean, you could have afforded to lose this one. As hard of a loss as it would have been, at least you would have had game 6 in Philly, regather and go at it again in game 7, but you weren't afforded that luxury because the inexperience, the playoff inexperience, I should say. I shouldn't say inexperience, because Boston fans got all fucking fadoodled with that. I mean, playoff inexperience. Boston has been there, done that with Brad Stevens. I mean, that first year that Boston made the postseason with Brad Stevens, they got swept. It just shows that there's a progress here. We even saw it with the Sixers back in that 0-1 team. 99, they lost in the first round. Then they got bounced in the semis, and then they made it to a finals. There's a progress here. And, they won a first-round series. They got to the semifinals. Yeah, it hurts. But these are the necessary steps you got to take.
Yeah, right. I mean, we rode this magic carpet for as long as we could. It was like possibly maybe get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but we didn't. We got pretty close, but you got to use these as learning steps, stepping stones. No team, to my knowledge, that I can remember has ever been that young and made it all the way to the finals. It just doesn't really happen. You have to have a well-established team or the youngest team in the NBA, for sure. So you got to take your lumps. You got to take your bruises. We got to build this and use this for next season. We'll have a Markelle Fultz fully in. Embiid can use his playoff experience. Ben Simmons, I thought, played well. I love the aggression out of Simmons today. I have nothing bad to say about him. It's a shame it took till game 5, but hey, that's all right. He went all out. He put his head down, even when he wasn't getting the calls, when he was getting clobbered in there. I still love to see the aggression. Awesome. I thought him, Embiid, and Sarge had a great game tonight. And TJ did too.
Yeah, I mean, they've literally willed themselves back in this game in the third quarter. Because, again, it was like turnovers, missed foul shots galore, and they're within 1 heading into the 4th. That was crazy to me. Just the mental toughness that this young team showed tonight, I thought was impressive. And then they kind of lost it at the end there. But you can't be pissed off for their performance tonight, but it goes back to game 2 and game 3. It bit them in the fucking ass.
It did. It did, just the inexperience, and it sucks. And you look at it, maybe it would be 2-2, 3-1. It would probably be 2-2. I wouldn't say we'd be up 3-1. I'd say it'd be tied from last game. And then coming into here, you have that fight, but it would be 3-2 going back into Philly, and then you have a chance to tie it and take it to game 7. But that's not the way we went. Boston's going to face Cleveland. They're going to get knocked out. It's going to be Warriors-Cleveland in the finals for the 4th straight year.
Yeah. So all right. So let's get into the Redick thing, because you thought like he was basically the main reason why they lost. Is that basically?
I thought he was a big reason why they lost. Like I said, they exploited him down on the block with Marcus Smart. They left him 1-on-1. And you can't do that with JJ. He can only do so much, but Marcus Smart is brilliant down there, not only passing, but he's going to outbody him and get the easy buckets. And he was mostly on Marcus Smart throughout the whole night, and they exploited him on defense. Like I said, if he was out there being an offensive genius, which he wasn't, he couldn't get anything open. They were smothering him with Jaylen Brown on the perimeter. He couldn't get off screen, so why not take him out and put somebody else in? Put a body on Marcus Smart. So you figure, what is Marcus Smart? I don't even know his numbers tonight. He at least had 15 points, I think.
I'll look at the box score in a bit. All right, so here's what I kind of have to say about that, because I agree with you in a sense, but unfortunately the Sixers don't really have the firepower off the bench. And the firepower is Markelle Fultz, but since he's not played at all, you're not just going to thrust him in there.
Right.
So the thing that Redick gives you is the floor spacing. And you take him out of the game, and it's Justin Anderson, TJ McConnell, Embiid, Simmons, and who am I missing?
Dario.
Okay, so you're basically getting no floor spacing with it. Like TJ and Simmons, those guys aren't shooting threes, and you need that floor spacing for Simmons to kind of operate. So yeah, sure, he struggled on the defensive end, obviously, but it's like if you're going to have Justin Anderson in there, you also need that floor spacer to kind of put in with him, I think. But I'm not putting Bellinelli out there. I think Bellinelli is more of a defensive liability than Redick is, and the way that Marco was just chucking up terrible shots all series. I understand why Redick was in there. It just they don't really have the firepower off the bench. Like, what else can you do?
Well, here's my take. Yeah, you're right. He is out there for the floor spacing. Justin Anderson isn't as prolific shooter as JJ Redick, but look at Aaron Baines. What was he, 9 for 18? He's not a guy that really lights it up, and he was killing us behind the three-point line. Dude, you figured let's let him have the open shots. I mean, I would rather roll the dice on Justin Anderson hitting a few shots, maybe leaving him open, than having JJ out there, to being ineffective and getting killed on the defensive end. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let me pull up that box score. I'll let you know what went on. All right. So Tatum led the Celtics in scoring, 25 points, 8 of 15 from the floor. Jaylen Brown was 10 of 13. He was hitting his threes tonight, 3 of 4 from beyond the arc, 24 points for him. So you look at these two guys, they just killed the Sixers again. And there was a point in the second quarter. What pissed me off, and it pissed you off too, because we're texting each other. The fact that TJ McConnell's on Jason Tatum. You got a 6-foot guy on a 6'9" guy. That we've been screaming for Justin Anderson. Get him in the game. Put somebody that doesn't have that defensive liability on him. So, all right, Brett Brown puts a defensive specialist on him, but he's fucking 9 inches shorter than him.
It's horrible. And I don't know if you remember from last series when I was saying they were getting the switches and we wouldn't take advantage. When Ben Simmons was on Terry Rozier, they would go away from Ben Simmons. Well, the Celtics were smart enough and attacked TJ McConnell because it's 9 inches. It's basically like you're having an open shot. You got a little pesky guy that's not going to get in the way of your vision or in the way of your shot. So, of course, go get some easy buckets. And they exploited it all game long. And if you remember, when the waning seconds were ticking down at the end of the game, who was there when it was TJ on Jason Tatum. Yet again, he tried to swipe the ball. He missed. And it was like Embiid was down there, and I forget who else, but they all kind of just looked at him as he got the easy bucket, which drove me insane. But it's like, come on, man. You got to be smart enough to not to have that on there. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Embiid goes for 27 and 12, 9 of 18 from the floor. I mean, I thought he was tremendous.
Yeah.
Sure, there were some times, go up strong with it, and there were a couple instances where Aaron Baines pathetically out-hustled him for some offensive rebounds. I will say that. Fuck the man bun, but, whatever. Dario Saric, like you said, he was outstanding too. 27 points, 8 of 14 from the floor. I mean, Dario came over, and he's the one that put the Sixers in front there with like 3 minutes left with that 3 in transition. Redick goes for 14 on 5 of 13, 2 of 7 from 3, so he struggles again from beyond the arc. We did see less of Bellinelli tonight, only 11 minutes. So he did play Bellinelli less. It just shortened up the rotations basically. So you had all 5 starters go 33 plus minutes, basically 37 plus minutes if you take Simmons out of the equation. So basically just rode the starters into the ground. So there you go. I do have the comments up, and a lot of people are complaining about the officiating. You know me, I'm not a guy that likes to fucking do that shit. There's a reason why Boston won this series. There's a reason why Boston won this game. I don't think it's because officiating cost the Sixers a win.
I don't think it was costing them a win, but I thought they were missing a lot of calls, not only in this game, but throughout the whole season and all the playoff games. It's just bad all the way around. It's not just this game. It's every game, dude. And the NBA really's got to look hard into the flopping, dude. I can't take it. It is just ridiculous. Everybody does it, and they know they're going to get the calls if you stumble, if you fall. They got to create a penalty like they do in hockey, because I can't take it. I don't want to see a game constantly stopped every 2 seconds for guys to go to the foul line. It's irritating, it's annoying, and it's ruining the game of basketball, in my opinion. But Simmons was going strong, getting clobbered. Boston wasn't getting calls too, of course, It wasn't just the one-sided.
It worked both ways. I thought, but there's a lot of bias right now in our comments.
It wasn't consistent though. Like that push on.
Yeah, that was bullshit. I mean, that's like the most blatant push you'll ever see in your life, and it wasn't called by Al Horford in the first half.
God, that was horrible. And then I thought the block Embiid got on Baines was an awful call. Like they just weren't keeping it consistent. Like it was going both ways, but they weren't keeping it consistent between two teams. But they were calling down low and on the perimeter. So it's just the NBA. It wasn't just this game.
It's well, you know, it's funny because we talked about the Miami series and how we hated how ticky-tack it was. And so, like, for me, I like seeing games where they let them play a little bit. And we saw that tonight. I did think Joel Embiid got fouled when there was like 10 seconds left in the game when he went up. I did think he got fouled. But they were kind of holding the whistles all night. So it's like it was kind of working both ways. At least I thought. See, I have a skill where I can watch a game somehow unbiasedly. I don't know how I can do it. But, sure. They missed some egregious calls, the Al Horford one, and I thought Embiid got fouled there near the end. But I also thought there were instances where Boston didn't get calls. They were just holding the whistles. This was officiated like a 1990s playoff game. They were holding it out. They were letting them play. And I did like seeing that.
Well, and of course, at the 10 seconds left of the game, you're not going to call a foul and end the game that way.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're not calling it all night, you're not going to call it there.
No, absolutely not. That's why I think Embiid should have went up strong and taken the dunk and not look for the foul. He expected the foul, and that's why I feel like the new NBA is just these players are looking to get bailed out by the officials, and it shouldn't be that way. I just like to see officiating call the same calls for both teams. That's all I want to see, not the inconsistencies. I mean, there's 3 of them out there, bro. Come on. You know they're not going to be perfect, but let's just keep it fair the same way. But, you know, you don't want to blame the refs for with the way the game was decided. Of course, it's not going to end that way. Sixers just didn't play as well as Boston did, and it is what it is.
Yeah. And the other one that we talked about too with the flop of Aaron Baines, but you know Joel Embiid has got to keep his composure too. You can't be pushing him. I know he flopped like a fish. He flopped like LeBron, but Jesus Christ, Joel, you gotta, you know, he's doing this to Marcus Smart in Game 4, but it was Boston that was in his head, and that's the reason why he got the technical.
Yeah, he was definitely frustrated after that call. And he gave him a little nudge, and then there's that whole flopping thing where it's like, come on, if it is a playoff game, don't let something ticky-tacky like that, you know, get thrown in with a technical. I mean, if it's some guys are pushing back and forth like what Terry Rozier did in Game 4, okay, fine. But something like that, dude, you just got to let it go. And then if you remember, Justin Anderson went for an easy foul, and they looked at that like, come on, dude. Like, I just can't stand the officiating. Awful. Just awful.
Yeah, well, you know me. I don't like playing the blame game. So the only time I've ever complained about officials, like literally, the only time was that Carolina Eagles game last year. Like that was over the line. That's what overstepped my boundaries. That's what I was like, all right, Pete Morelli, there's something up in this game. But besides that, hey, I don't like doing that shit. The officials are not the reason why the Sixers lost tonight.
No.
Turnovers, missed foul shots. Those 2 things are why they lost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the NFL is getting just as bad as basketball. So let's hope it.
Just wait. Yeah, you ain't kidding, dude. Just wait until this targeting bullshit next year with tackling, with bleeding your helmet. Just wait until that shit happens.
Awful. They're taking all the fun out of it.
They are. Oh, yeah. All right. Is there any other topics you wanted to discuss? Am I missing anything?
I'm trying to think. I think you hit on all of them. We talked about Brett. TJ was a great spark, you know, inserted. And, you know, you got to think about, you know, Covington's starting position next year. I feel like he's got to move to the bench. He got totally exploited this series. You know, that's why you got to make a couple big splashes in free agency this year. Covington. Whoever, dude, a defensive stopper. If it's going to take LeBron, he's good defensively, so at least he can throw a body on a guy. I mean, he looked like silly string out there, dude. He looked like a slinky. It was just horrific. And Embiid's got to work on some of his stamina because towards the end of the game, and He just gets so funky with the ball, dude. Like, even when he doesn't, establish post position, he's just so fumbly with the ball. It just sometimes it drives me insane when he's got it, and he tries to act like a guard a little bit. It's just like he's got to cut down on them turnovers.
This might not be a popular take, but I feel like he needs to refine his post moves. I think people assume that he has post moves because of his feet. But there are times where he gets too wild with his feet, and we saw it in this series. And I don't want to say that he's not good in the post. I want to say maybe people overrate what his post skills are. Where he's at his best is when he's facing up in the mid-range. That's his bread and butter. That jab step jumper that he does, or the little swing through that he does to draw fouls. But in terms of his back to the basket game, back to the basket, I think it needs work. I do. And he's only in his second year.
Right, exactly. So he's 24, so he's got plenty of time to work on that. And he did watch the tapes of the Dream. I think the Dream comparisons kind of get you there. You figure he's got great post moves, but you're right. If you notice, he always doesn't want to establish himself with his back to the basket. He always wants to do the face-up game because that is his bread and butter. But I think he needs to really work on that and get more penetration, because when he gets double teamed is when he fumbles around and gets the ball taken away from him too. So he's got to work on that as well. I mean, there's all points these guys have to work on their games. Simmons with his shot, and B with his back to the basket, just little stuff.
Yeah. All right. And just to kind of talk on Covington and McConnell, Covington is just he's that guy that you love when he's hot. He's good. There's good Rocco and there's bad Rocco, and we saw bad Rocco this series, unfortunately. And when he gets bad, when we see bad Rocco, it's just like the worst shot selection you'll see. And we have some pretty bad shot selection on this roster with Bellinelli and Redick in the series alone. But then you see Robert Covington and the shots that he chucks up sometimes. There's that. But to McConnell, talking about him again, I mean, he provided the spark again. 7 points in the first quarter, 2 steals. So, the defensive mentality he brought right into Game 5. The momentum carried over for him. Brad Stevens didn't really have an answer for him again, so he was spectacular. Scary TJ.
Yeah, dude. And he's a guy that can take them off the dribble. He could easily get easy penetration. It was opening up a lot of looks for guys because they had to pay attention when he was under the basket, like an Al Horford. And I thought it was great that we changed up our offensive game plan from going to a team that just chucked up a ton of threes to, penetrating, getting to the 10, getting to the free throw line. We just unfortunately weren't able to hit all our free throws. You figured if we only missed 3 or 4, but what were we, 24 for 31? So if you factor in those points, but they didn't shoot terrible from the free throw line. But I'm just glad that they were able to establish themselves down in the paint, because that's where I think that our strongest game plan would be. Because look at their centers, dude. They're nothing. Horford's good. I like Horford, but Aaron Baines and Greg Monroe, they're not defensive guys. They're not shot blockers. We could have ate them alive all day, which we did in this game. We exploited them.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go to the comments now. Let's see what the people have to say. See what kind of questions I want to. Let's see. Yeah, see, here's one with the referees. Kevin Belgrade, NBA referees give them that game so horrible, bullshit, cheating for them. They were mobbing. Joel Embiid, Dario, Saric, Ben Simmons, no calls at all, really, and we were playing good. See, like we talked about that already. See, I didn't think there were a lot of calls on both sides, and that's the way I feel.
Yeah, I don't think it was cheating, but missed calls on both sides. Playoff game, you're going to let them play hard down the paint. And Dario hasn't gotten calls all series or all season, so they ain't going to start now.
Philly 0024 says he felt like when they had the 4-point lead, they kept rushing to take shots.
Yeah, no, they did. They did. I don't know. And that's what was worrying me. My heart was like pumping out of my chest. I'm like, just slow it down, get your shot selection, work yourself through Embiid, try to stab yourself low in the post. But I'm really think the turning point was when J.J. Redick had that open shot. We had some great ball movement, and he blew a completely wide open shot. You figure we're up 7 at that point if he nails it. and you got a little bit more something to work with. So I really thought that shot was crucial for him to knock down, and he just blew it 2 for 7 from downtown.
Yeah.
Why I thought he shouldn't have been in the game.
Cloud asked, "What do you think Sixers need to do to improve for next season?"
Perimeter defense
Yep.
has to be the main priority next offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I said in like the little mini preview that I did, the biggest worry for me was who's going to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in ISO situations along the wing, and that killed us the entire series. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and that's like the big reason why I was so pissed off about Justin Anderson again. It's like you saw Dwayne Wade in Game 2, and what he did in Game 2, and you put Justin Anderson on him, and then all of a sudden Dwayne Wade didn't do as well. So you would think, like, common sense, all right, we don't have any wing defenders except Justin Anderson. He can't shoot threes. He stinks offensively, but he can play defense. And he never got a shot. And that to me just boggles my mind.
And maybe it goes back to Brett being stubborn and sticking with his 8-9 man rotation and not giving him a chance. And you saw him in the most unopportune times, like 10 seconds before halftime. Like, why? What is the point? Why not insert him with like 5 minutes left to give you that spark, that energy? Right? He is the only guy that can really defend the wing. It is common sense. I don't get Brett Brown sometimes. I really don't.
Yeah. And like it going to your point again with the perimeter defense, Sixers and Celtics, they're going to be playing each other a lot over the next decade. So, and Tatum and Brown, they ain't going anywhere. So you gotta find answers for those guys. It's going to take a shitload to get Kawhi Leonard, so I don't know if that's something we'll see about that. But like, if you want a wing defender, well, there's your guy. But that's another show for another day. Well, that's not for right now. All right. Philly0024 says again, overall this season was a success and far exceeded my expectations. Proud of this team, and we'll learn from this series, and we'll only get better.
Yeah. I hope out of anybody, because I know Simmons and Embiid will learn from this. I want Brett Brown to learn from this. This is the biggest learning experience for him, because I still think, even though he had a great season and he got us to the second round, I'm not so sure if he gets knocked out again next year that they're looking for a new coach, because he's the last piece of that Hinkie era, and I just feel like BC's itching to get his own guy in here.
Yeah, and the thing about that is this situation here, it's a little reminiscent of what happened with the Eagles in 2016, Doug Peterson's first season, and when they were just finding all these different ways to lose. And then he learned from all that. And what happened this year? The Eagles won a Super Bowl. So I'm not saying that Brett Brown's going to win an NBA title next year, but maybe he learns from his mistakes. We all forget that this was Brett Brown's first playoff run. This was his first taste of the postseason. No, he sucked. All right, he was terrible. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ! It took him until Game 5 to finally make some adjustments. Ridiculous, awful. So that to me doesn't give me a lot of hope moving forward. I think he gets another year, but if it's the same shit again next year, you got to pull the plug. But the reason why I'm not pulling the plug, I mean, the guy won 52 games this year. Right. I thought he coached a hell of a season. I'm not firing him because of 5 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
No, absolutely not. That's why I feel like he gets a chance. But if the blunders happen again, he's gone.
Yeah. So people doubted Doug Peterson too. They thought he was an idiot. I was one of them. And look what happened. So sometimes you got to trust the progress. There you go. All right. Let's see. Man, a lot of refs helped Boston. Joel didn't shake hands as expected.
Good.
It's Miles E7. He says it pretty much right. Sixers really choked this whole series. We can complain about the refs all we want, but that's not changing anything.
Right. It's not.
Yeah. They did choke. Game 2 and Game 3. It goes back to that. That's where the playoff inexperience came into play. The talent came out tonight, but Boston matched us. Boston played just as well. This was a fucking great game tonight. This is why it's so hard to win in Boston. You have to play your A game and then some. And they would have had to do this twice. This is why it was basically impossible for them to come back from this 3-0 series deficit. I didn't think it was good. I did not think they were going to win tonight. And they actually almost proved me wrong.
It was a phenomenal game, you know, and I thought there when we were up, 4, and I thought we were looking good. We were getting easy penetration on the bucket. We were just trading buckets back and forth. I was like, well, maybe we do take this back to Philly and possibly tie it up. But there's a reason teams are 0 and now 131. It is so difficult to do it. It's almost impossible.
So it's now 0 and 131.
Mm-hmm.
So correct. Eric R., our man Eric, checks in. Shaq said it best. Embiid needs shot recognition. Bang the little guys and blow by the bigger bigs.
Yeah, that's what he's got to do. He's what he got. And you saw, like I said, I thought he had an outstanding game tonight, defensively, offensively. But in that situation, when you're down low, you just got to take it up strong, get that dunk. Don't look for the rest to bail you out, and don't put the putbacks up. It's been all season. These guys just, it's not only him, it's Dario, it's even Ben sometimes. Just go up strong and dunk the ball, man. Come on.
Yeah. Let's see. Young Revenue says Brett Brown needs to eliminate the unnecessary dribble handoffs in the offense. It leads to critical turnovers.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
Yeah,
for sure. And then it was a little stagnant sometimes where you were still seeing guys standing around, not moving. You saw TJ almost got into a fight because I don't know if TJ moved into his spot where JJ wanted to go, and then you saw Simmons and JJ collide with each other. They didn't really know where they wanted to go, and it was just very fumble. And you've got to play almost a perfect game in the playoffs, especially when you're on the road and you're down 3-1. I mean, look what happened to Utah. They almost did it last night, but they couldn't hold on. Yeah. And the Pels, they never had a chance.
Yep. Eric says again, I like this comment here. Brett needs to learn from Brad. Focus all next year on coaching on the fly. We are out of the learn the system phase.
Yeah, we are. You know, he's had how much now? This was the first time, so this is where you start to judge Brett Brown because he had a full team this time. You know, you forget about those 3 other years where he had D-League players. You judge off of what he had. He had an awful second round. I thought he did a decent job against Miami, but you got to learn from this. You definitely do. And you look at he learned under the best coach ever, dude. He coached in San Antonio for, 14 years or whatever it was, won 4 titles. You figured he would have picked something up. What I thought he should have done, and I talked about you with this pre-show, that to slow their defense down, or their offense, when we were up, to start fouling Jaylen Brown. And you've seen this happen with Ben Simmons throughout the season, and you've seen even Popovich do it. It screws up their offense. They don't know what to do. And then you put him and you make him get them points at the free throw line. You know, it screws them up. We were in the penalty at this point. So why not try to do it? I like that. It's a strategy to try to get you. You claw your way back in any way possible. He just didn't do it, though.
Yeah. I'll make this point again. I've said it before, but I'll say it one more time. When you're in the playoffs, you have to make adjustments from game to game, not 3 games in or 5 games in like Brett Brown did. You need to make adjustments on the fly. If they're taking advantage of your switching defense, by God, stop fucking switching. I know it's not accustomed to what you want to do, but fuck it. This is the postseason. You have to make the adjustments, take away your weaknesses. You take your weaknesses and make it into a strength. You can't just let Tatum and Brown feast on Redick and Bellinelli all fucking series. You need to make adjustments within your defense. That's the one big thing for me. And if you don't want to stop switching, by God, where the fuck is Justin Anderson? So I say it again. It's like that to me just infuriated me.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything at all, dude. It's like, what are you doing? Just change something if you're not going to change. And that's what destroyed us. It was the nonstop switching. You had a beat out there on Tatum sometimes. Then that's what led to having a guard down there on their bigs. That's what they want you to do. They want to draw Embiid out of the paint so they can attack and have a 6'10 guy on a 6'1 guy. It's easy, smart basketball. It's basketball 101. I mean, it's pure and simple.
John Secunda. To me, this series was a microcosm of the entire season. Young team, can't close the game early and going into the playoffs. Letting 2 games slip away shows the youth.
Yeah, for sure. And it was like, when were we going to see those growing pains? It was going to happen at some point. You went on that strong way to end the season. Then you had that 4-1 sweep with the lesser talented Miami Heat. Now you actually face an opponent that matches what you have. They're long, athletic, and young, same as the Sixers. Can hit shots from the perimeter. They just did. They played our way, just better. They slowed it down. I thought they got more transition threes than we had. They literally just played our game.
Yeah. And the thing is like our counter was giving into their style of play. We became content with playing half court and deriving from our strength. So it's like, all right, if you want to play their game, whatever. But if you're going to do it on offense, then do it on defense too, and stop switching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they play man to man.
Yeah. All right. Somebody made a Fultz point, and I don't know where it was. Basically, the Fultz point was, why did he play? Why is J.J. Redick and T.J. McConnell out there?
Well, TJ, for his peskiness on defense, and he's got the more experience. He's been in the league for 3 years now. It just shows that Brett Brown has no absolute confidence in Fultz. He's 19 years old, played 2 weeks at the end of the season. We can say a total of 16 games, possibly. He missed 68 games. If he would have played a full season like Jason Tatum, he definitely would have been in there. Just no experience for the kid. You don't want to toss him into the Lions then. That's like bathing yourself in gasoline and jumping into a pit flame. It's just, you can't do it. Especially Game 5.
I mean, sure, like, I would have liked to see him more, but to think that, like, he was just going to go in there and just turn the series around, that wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. And he's also a defensive liability right now. You needed some guys in there that could defend. And, if he would have been on Terry Rozier would have made mincemeat of him. Yeah. So, like, that's where you look at McConnell and why he was in the game. McConnell did another tremendous job on Rozier again. When he actually defended Rozier, he did a great job on him. Mm-hmm. When he got put on Tatum, which was just stupid as fuck. Like, my God. Oh, I can't believe he did that.
Multiple times. It wasn't just one time. It was
like putting Slava Medvedenko on Shaq.
Or Tyrone Lue on Shaq, dude. Like, come on. Awful. Just absolute. He's going to be under a lot of fire only in the media, but he's going to have a lot of questions to ask about that and why Fultz didn't play. If there was any time to see Fultz, it was within the first 2 games. Not, 3, 4, or 5 when you're, like, clawing for your life and trying to get back into it.
All right. That's pretty much it. See, Stipe Miocic, however the fuck you say your name, listen. You didn't listen to me. So he talks about the youth, Tatum, Brown, Smart are all younger. Those guys have playoff experience. Playoff experience matters in the NBA. Sixers didn't have it.
They're younger than who? Embiid and Dario. That's it.
I mean, they're younger than Simmons, I think. But not Smart, but
yeah, Smart's not. Yeah, Tatum and Brown
than Simmons. All right, this is something that Boston fans came to me like, well, they're younger. Well, shut the fuck up because they have playoff experience. Boston has been through this. Yeah. They got swept a couple years ago when Brad Stevens made his playoff debut. So you're telling me that you don't think Brad Stevens learned from that? Come on, Boston fans. You guys are smarter than that. But then again, maybe not.
I don't know. I don't think Simmons is a rookie, so I thought that was it. And then they said Embiid sucked tonight, so that was just like, come on, man, be a little bit more intelligent. I thought they were like Philly fans. I'm not going to say the majority of them are like that. Just a select few.
Yeah. All right. That's it. I'm done. I got to write a recap, so I don't want to write this recap at all, but I have to. I'm obligated to. This is why I get paid.
Well, it's cool, it sucks that they lost, but now you look forward to the next season and what we do to get better. You use this as a building block, and you go out and, select certain free agents. No more Jared Baylesses, no more Amir Johnsons. We got to get a lot better. And then you look towards the draft. What are we going to do with this Lakers pick? Who do you take? Do you take up a backup for Embiid so they're not such a liability when he goes out of the game, or do you go more or less towards a guard shooter? But whoever it is, just make sure they can be a lockdown defender. We've talked about Bridges out of Villanova. Would be nice. No Trae Young. Don't want Trae Young.
Trae Young would be just stupid to draft him.
Awful. I would like a Wendell Carter even. I wouldn't mind him at a Duke. Those are the type of guys that you looked at could fall to us. But that's another video.
Bridges is the guy. Bridges is that two-way guy that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Bridges. But that's another video, as you said. All right, do you have any other final thoughts? Anything?
That was just my final thought. You look towards the offseason and getting better. You got to make a big splash. It's got to be defensively, though, whether it be Air LeBron or a Paul George. I don't want to trade for Kawhi because I think it would be giving up too much, and you don't even know if he's going to re-sign here. So if it's guaranteed that he signed a long-term contract to get him, then possibly. But I think it would take like Dario Fultz, like 2 first-round picks. They're a very smart organization over there, as we know. R.C. Buford, Greg Popovich. Nah. Don't want to get Billy King here, baby.
Well, my final thought, as much as this hurts right now, just remember, Boston, Tom Brady dropped the ball. Kyle Gaffner, I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out of here. Take care.
LeBron's coming. You're beat.
Wait, hold on. Now you're on board?
Now I'm on board. No, I'm saying LeBron's coming to next series.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they sweep. Cavaliers
yeah,
sweep them. Yeah.
But I would have LeBron here if we could beat them next year just to have sweet revenge. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the playoff inexperience of this year is going to come back and be a good thing for next year. And actually, like, that brings me to one final point that I will say. I think the reason why so many people are pissed off is they saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. They saw that Kyrie Irving was out. Gordon Hayward was out. They saw this Cleveland team where you just have LeBron James and a bunch of scrubs. We thought that the Sixers could really actually get to the finals this year, but we had a dose of reality. We got a reality check. It hurts right now. It sucks. I'm fucking miserable. But, hey, learning experience. You come back next year, and you do what you got to do. Trust the progress.
Trust the progress. Yeah, the West is winning either way, so it don't matter. The East is not going to come out victorious.
Yeah, true that. I'll say this, though. Houston, I could see Cleveland beating Houston.
Yo, definitely, because they're more a liability on defense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors are going to win in 5, but that's another argument. Whatever. So I don't trust D'Antoni coach teams in the postseason. I'm sorry.
Nope. They have a track record of scoring a lot of points and playing zero defense.
Yep. There it is. All right. That's Kyle Gaffner. I'm Adrian Fedke. We are out this time. All right. We are. Tom Brady still dropped the football, though. Peace.